Hello everybody and welcome to the Place to Soar. I'm very, very happy to be introducing this new concept in my home city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It is called the Place to Soar, the Golden Triangle Edition. My name is Anita Russell and I am your host. I'm the founder and creator of the Place to Soar, a social enterprise with a core mission of cultivating growth. I'm a life coach, I'm a change cultivator, and I'm also the community producer of this new TV show which started in New Jersey and now launching here in Pittsburgh. And now I'd like to introduce these two ladies sitting right next to me. They're both very dear friends of mine. I'm going to start with Susan Evans. She is a friend of mine, she's my sister, she's a consultant for the Place to Soar, and she's also a community producer and the co-host for the show. So Susan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I grew up some part of my life in West Palm Beach, Florida. And I remember you coming to town, and it was very interesting because you were telling me you were going to be a life coach, and I was encouraged by that. So I'm pursuing life coaching, John Maxwell life coaching as well.
Nice.
And I live in Swissville at this time, and I'm just happy to be here.
Excellent, thank you. And this lovely lady over here, her name is Deb Carter. She's a reflexologist practitioner, and I'm going to let her talk a little bit about what that is. So can you tell us a little bit about Deb?
Sure thing. I am the owner of Reflexology for the Body, Mind, and Soul in Forest Hills, PA. I have owned that for about 12 years, and that's one of the jobs that I do. I also am part of a group called OMA. It stands for Ohio, Monongahela, and Allegheny, where the three rivers meet here in Pittsburgh. And it is a nonprofit. It's a group of holistic practitioners, and their mission is to offer holistic services, lectures, those types of things to people regardless of their ability to pay. And the third thing that I do is I'm actually an Uber driver. And so it's been a very interesting combination of the three of those. And what I would like to say about myself is basically I feel like I'm a connector. That's how I move through my day. And I am thrilled to be here. So thank you for having me.
Excellent. So there's a story, there's an Uber story behind Deb and I actually getting connected in the whole OMA thing and all of that. So I was actually one of her passengers. This is going back to the summer of 2017 or so. And anybody who knows me, who has ever been in a car with me in an Uber, I always talk to the driver. And so we got into this conversation, and she told me about OMA and some of the things that she was getting involved in, and so here we are today. We're really good friends, and there's a lot of connections that are there, and we're going to share some of those connections in the time that we have together. But what I'm actually going to do is switch it up a little bit. Normally I'm the one that does the interviewing, but this time we're going to do it a little bit differently, and we're going to allow Deb to be the interview because I want to be able to tell the story of the Place to Soar. So we're going to turn it over to Deb.
Thank you. So one of the things that I think everyone would love to know is how did you get into, what's your backstory of SOAR?
Okay, that's a really, really great question. So it started one day, literally, when I was leaving work. I used to work in a pharmaceutical company when I was in New Jersey. And I was leaving work one day, and I was walking towards my car, and I stepped off the sidewalk, and I got this vision, this incredible vision of myself stepping off of a cliff. But instead of falling, I was soaring upward. And so that vision came for me at a time when I was really sort of at a crossroads. And I was in this time where I was trying to make a decision. And I was trying to make a decision about staying or leaving corporate America. I had had a very successful career in what I was doing. Things started to change just a little bit, and I just started feeling like my time was up. And so I, eventually made that decision. And out of that decision, February 1st, 2013 was my last day, and that was how the whole SOAR concept came into being. And SOAR is actually an acronym for Step Out and Redesign, and the focus is on you. So that's kind of, at least conceptually, that's where it came from.
So did the principles come to you all at once, or was it a method or a time frame?
It was very gradual.
Mm-hmm.
And I would honestly say that if it had come to me all at once, my hair probably would have blew up, because it was it was just a lot of stuff. And it was literally like these pieces of a puzzle were coming together. And as they were coming together, I was laying them out as on the table of my life, so to speak, and just putting the pieces of the puzzle in the right places, from even from the guy that gave me financial advice when I was leaving corporate America. Like, what am I supposed to do with this retirement money and stuff like that? I had no idea. He kind of walked into my life one day. So it was all very gradual. And quite frankly, I'm still growing and I'm still receiving pieces. And this in and of itself is one of the pieces. So I've learned how to just keep myself open. And as those pieces are falling, I believe in synchronicity. I don't believe that things happen like accidentally. It was just kind of this thing that fell out of the sky. I believe that God is orchestrating this whole entire thing. And my role is to sit back, take what he gives me, and do what he tells me to do.
So you had SOAR in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you're going to be moving it into Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So
Yeah.
how is that development?
So interestingly, you two are two of the keys in that. The fact that I got connected to you via OMA was flat out amazing to me. And all of the things that grew out of that. So I went to OMA, right?
Right.
And in the meantime, you had asked me about the coaching. And then once I got exposed to OMA, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, decided I wanted to be a part of that. And so then I told Susan, and then Susan came to OMA, and that's how this triangle right here came into existence. And it's the SOAR that brought it together, and plus the OMA coming together. So there's a synergy between those two things. And so when I got to Pittsburgh, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I came here, because most of the people who may be watching this, a lot of them may know me, know that I was born and raised in the city of Pittsburgh, left almost 30 years ago, came back, but the thing that brought me back was the illness of my mom. You two know the story. I'm not really going to go very deeply into the story, but it was a very moving and very trying and very changing part of my life. And one of the things that came out of that was the realization that God was calling me to come back home to my home city. And while he was calling me to come back home, he was planting the seeds. He planted the seed when you said, I want to work with you as a life coach. He planted the seed with me getting connected to OMA. And I can still very clearly remember the day when you guys asked me to be a member of the board. I was like, yes. And then Susan was asked to be a member of the board. And so it all just kind of fell into place. And it's making this beautiful picture. And the picture isn't done. This is just the beginning.
Right, right. So how has your, the development of SOAR in New Jersey, how has it helped in your development in Pittsburgh?
Because it basically happened the same way. It was just very serendipitously. I happened to be at an event in Trenton. This is an event called Art All Night, and it's just this thing where they just have art all night, literally. So I was there, and the night was winding down. It must have been like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm getting tired. My friends are getting tired. We're like, let's just go home. So, but I decided that I wanted to get something to drink. Right? And I wanted lemonade, but the lemonade line was really long. See, this is just how it works, right? The lemonade line was really, really long, and I didn't want to wait that long, right? So then I said, well, I'll just go get a bottle of water. So as I'm walking to get to the place where I can get a bottle of water, I saw this black woman, right? And she was just this beautiful woman. She had short locks, and they were blonde. And that was what attracted me to her. Like, look at this sister, she's looking pretty good, right? So then I go over to her, and it turns out, number one, she is like this amazing tea connoisseur. And I'm gonna mention her name just in case you see this. She's known as Lady T in the New Jersey area. And we started talking, I bought some tea, and we started talking and everything, and it turns out that she had a show at a TV show that she was doing, which is the equivalent of what we're doing here. So in New Jersey, it's called Princeton Community TV. Here, it's called Pittsburgh Community TV. So she invited me to be a guest on her show, and I went, and I'm like, wait a minute, how do you do this? Like, what? Tell me about this. She said it's public television. You pay a nominal fee to be a part of it. You just come up with an idea. And so because of that whole thing of coming out of corporate America, I'm redesigning my life, and I got this big dream that's slowly coming to fruition and all of that. I'm like, wow, that would be really cool to have a TV show. And the purpose of the show is to talk to people so that they can tell their story. Like, I like being like a grassroots kind of person, community, the fact that it's community-based and all of that was extremely appealing to me. And so I put in my little proposal, and I got approved, and here I am.
Well, I was wondering too, as you were talking, because OMA is so close to my heart, how is it that OMA, becoming part of OMA, how did OMA support you in being able to move forward?
Well, mind, body, spirit. That pretty much says it all. I mean, that's where my heart is when I think about being a change cultivator, because that's how I define myself, as a change cultivator. And what that means is empowering people to understand what growth and personal development really is, and empowering them to understand that you are personally accountable for how your life turns out. You know, the choices that you make, how you manage your circumstances, your relationships, and all of that. And so anything that has to do with this like integration of who you are and the wholeness of you as a person is what I'm gravitated towards. So, and maybe that was one of the reasons that contributed to me leaving corporate America, is because I don't like feeling like my life is over here and then my work is over here, and that they're not connected to one another. In a lot of ways, what I did was connected, but it just got to the point where it was time for me to go. And so when I saw OMA, mind, body, spirit, that was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. That's where I need to be.
Yeah. So was it any particular lecture that you remember attending that sparked even more for you?
I really liked Food for Thought. I mean, although I had attended lectures, Food for the Soul. Sorry, Judy. But I really liked that. I liked the feel of it. I liked the whole atmosphere and all of that. And I would probably say, from a lecture perspective, I've gotten exposure to so many different topics. And I think one of the advantages of going to OMA is that it helps you to get a grounding in terms of who you are, in terms of what your faith, trust, and belief. Everybody puts their faith, trust, and belief somewhere or in someone. And I think for me, it's God, and I'm a follower of Christ and all of that. But one of the things that OMA really does is solidify that faith, trust, and belief. And I think if somebody's out there like searching, OMA is a good place to start getting a feel for, what does this mind, body, spirit thing feel like? What does it feel like to understand living an integrated life, or living holistically, and all of that? So it really helped me to get even further grounded in my own faith, trust, and belief.
Well, bringing up Food for the Soul, we are doing that again in November. We often do it twice a year, and that is coming up. And I love that that's the time that we do it, because it's the way that it works. For those of you who don't know, is we have simple food, soup and bread, and then we come together. We take some moments of silence to partake of the food, and then we pick a topic, and people we have about 8 people in each table, and people just start to speak about that topic and what it means to them. It's a totally safe space, and it does allow us to be thankful, first of all, for our connections and for everything around us. So that's a little bit more information.
So one of the things that I think I would like to talk about at this point is the SOAR values. I mentioned faith, trust, and belief as being one of those SOAR values, and they're kind of like the 10 Commandments, but not like do this, do this. It's more value-based, and so that's how I kind of look at it. And so normally what I do is when I have guests on my show, I will send them the list of 10 values and tell them to select 1 or 2 of them that really resonate with them. So the one that really resonates with me, and when I wrote them, I didn't write them in any particular order, but for this whatever, it seems that most people choose the very first one, which is the faith, trust, and belief. And for me, that resonates the most because that's my grounding. That's what kind of sets me, and everything else kind of grows from that. So I'm actually curious to know what you guys selected as the values that you most resonate with.
Well, I actually selected 2, but I'll share one, and that was creativity.
Oh, good.
And the creativity, that stems from my mom, her being very creative and always standing out. I always remember my mom standing out all the time because of her hair, because of the way she dressed, and the way that she always learned whatever it is that she wanted to learn. She just, even with cooking, with cooking, she would cook boar and different types of food that she's never did before. So creativity is one of the things that stand out with me. And with that, I design jewelry, logos, fashion, all types of things. Whatever I set my mind to and I see it, I create it. Or if someone comes up with an idea, I just put my mind to work and just come up with something very creative to do.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So the jewelry you're wearing, is that what Susie designed?
Actually, just the earrings, the ring, and the bracelet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. So what is your second one, out of curiosity?
The second one was fluid living.
Oh, yeah.
Fluid living, yeah. And because it has to deal with the mind, body, and spirit, of course, and that goes along with OMA. And just a quick story having to do with losing weight, because I had gained a lot of weight, 223 pounds. And from that, I had to make a decision mentally, so that's dealing with the mind, to eat differently, exercise, and I lost over 53 pounds. So what I did is I sold all my living room furniture and made it into a gym, and was determined to lose this weight. And I lost over 53 pounds, so I was really happy about that. So that had a lot to do with the mind, body, and spirit.
Exactly.
And some determination.
And definitely determination. Yeah, determination and discipline.
That's an amazing story, but that's also an example of what I'm talking about cultivating change. Mm-hmm. You planted a seed and it grew, and you look fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So Deb, which did you pick?
Well, I did pick the first one. It was faith, trust, and belief. Mm-hmm. And what I think about when I read those 3 words, basically it is how I live my life, and I didn't realize it till I actually read it, because there are many times in many situations that I have where it's the first time I've ever done it, or I'm in a place where I've never been before, very uncomfortable situations for me, new things. And I have had to learn to either be extremely fearful and not move forward, or go ahead and take the jump and just trust. Mm-hmm. And I can say, because I'm here and I'm here in front of cameras, etc., that every single time I have jumped, it has been positive. And so for that, I understand how the support comes from the universe, from universal knowingness and universal being. The goodness of the universe comes and supports us all the time. And when we have faith, trust, and belief, it basically just makes it easier.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Makes
I
it a little
agree.
more fun,
Yeah.
a little more light, and yeah.
Absolutely. So what was the second one?
I didn't pick a second one. You know
Oh,
why?
okay.
Because once I read that, it just
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
I knew that's the
I
one.
understand.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about this show and what it's going to be looking like in the city of Pittsburgh. So we've already established the fact that I have an excellent connection still in New Jersey. I still have the show in New Jersey. So in effect, what I'm doing is I'm having two editions of the same basic show. The Place to Soar, so there's the Golden Triangle edition, which is the one in Pittsburgh, and then there's the New Jersey edition. But what I decided to do in order to bridge the gap, because I want people to really get a sense that it's the same show, it's the same core messages and content and all of that. So the last two episodes that I did in New Jersey were centered around two things that I'm very interested in. One of them is trauma. And fighting trauma, helping people to get past trauma. So there's an organization in New Jersey called Liberating Tamar, and I've been working with that organization for a number of years. And so one of the interviews, the most recent interviews I did in New Jersey was with the founder of that. So it's the founder, myself, and the administrator. I'm the creative director for Liberating Tamar. So I'm going to introduce that here and really kind of link it to the fact that we're doing a trauma symposium, which the audience will be getting lots of information on that, but we're doing a trauma symposium with OMA in 2019. So I want to kind of introduce that concept here. And then the other one is police chaplaincy. So the whole idea of, this widening gap between law enforcement and communities, particularly the African American community, and all of that is very troubling. And so it's really interesting when you look at some of the forces that are happening in some places to kind of alleviate that, and a police chaplaincy program is one of them. So I actually interviewed some people with the Trenton Police Department, an officer, a juvenile officer, as well as some individuals who are pastors and that sort of thing, who are chaplains with the program. So it's a very interesting conversation. And so what I want to do is bridge that gap by having a conversation with the gentleman that I've learned is the chief police chaplain here in the city of Pittsburgh. So I'm going to be looking to make some connections with him, and then that'll be a good way, I think, to kind of bridge the two together, at least from a subject matter perspective. So the clock is kind of winding down a little bit, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about YouTube. So can you talk to me, Susan, about what all of this means for you? This whole thing of developing this SOAR concept and the TV show and the coaching. What is the meaning? What is the meaning of that for you?
Well, the meaning of it for me is really reaching out and to touch people, to allow them to get the information to be able to grow, and also the love and the passion that I have for people to love, to grow,
Yeah.
and that's what it means to me,
So what are some things you see? So you're going to be co-hosting this show.
Yeah, I know. This is my first show. This is me stepping out of my comfort zone, and this is very scary. And of course, I'm, talking different, but I'll get it together after time. My sister has been doing this for a while, so. But yeah, this for me, I'm getting out of my comfort zone. I'm stretching myself. I am learning so much about me, and I'm learning a lot about other people as well. So it's just like, it's awesome, and at the same time, I am stepping out on faith, just stepping out on faith and believing and trusting in God that He's going to actually see me through all of this. Yeah, and having my sister here to guide me and friends like Dad. Oh, I love Oma.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So what about you, Debs? How do you see yourself maybe meshing with the Place to Soar and your reflexology practice and OMA? Like, how do you see those things meshing together?
So I think the number one thing when you were asking that, the number one thing that comes to me is, so I want people to come to all of us because we're authentic. I think it's a draw.
Yes.
I'm drawn to people who I feel are very authentic. And one of the things that I think maybe is important for people to know is that we've all been through traumas.
Yes.
We've all been very low at times, and to let other people know that, and to let them know that there are agencies, there are lectures, there are groups of people that are available to help them, because we've all been there, and we've used these types of things to get ourselves to move to a higher place as well, a more supported and substantial place. So that's the thing that guides me, is that I want other people to know there are places, avenues that they can come and be part of.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I just wanted to leave these last words of wisdom, if you will, with our audience. Remember, to soar is to grow fearlessly with vision and purpose, and always keep your vision and purpose in mind. We'll see you next time at the Place to Soar Golden Triangle Edition. Bye-bye.